from the SAP Center in San Jose, Eli Gehn here, the site and location for now the Elite Eight between Purdue and Arizona, a chance to go to Indianapolis for the Final Four, very much within reach for both teams, who both had Sweet 16 matchups on Thursday that resulted a little bit differently. Obviously, the Boilermakers having one of the greater finishes in program history in this tournament. Last-second tip-in from Trey Kaufman-Wren to send the Boilermakers to this round. As for Arizona, absolutely pummeling Arkansas to get to this point. Purdue, obviously the preseason number one. Things didn't go quite as well as they expected throughout the regular season. And for Arizona, it was a team that's been favored for a majority of this season to make a run towards a national championship. It's a matchup between two perennial programs who have had a lot of big moments together. Purdue has lived on this stage year in and year out. Arizona, as I mentioned, a heavy favorite throughout a majority of this season. They're used to this moment as well. Now it's just about going onto the floor, playing those final 40 minutes, and seeing who will be advancing to Indianapolis. We caught up with the Boilermakers after their full practice, finally, before they take the floor against Arizona.
Will this be your toughest matchup of the year? I know Michigan was there, but
yeah, very similar, right? You know, from a physical standpoint, you got to be able to match that physicality, and that's easier said than done. They're a very, very physical team. The thing that they cause even more issues is just how talented their two guards are. And it's just not them. Like, they have guys that can shoot the basketball, can put the ball on the floor. And like, when you have to live and help and you have to deal with size, it makes it really hard to rebound then. And these guys will just swallow you up sometimes on the glass. Like, people have stopped them, but they haven't stopped them from rebounding. But when Arizona is shooting the ball well and they're rebounding the ball well on the offensive end, it's a dead end for their opponent. So we have to do a good job of trying to stay out of rotation so we have good rebound balance and then be able to execute on the offensive end. The best way to stop them in transition is score the ball. And so make them take the ball out of the net, because when they get rebounds and they outlet the basketball, it can be like a track meet at times.
I mean, there's a lot of different pieces to it, but I think it's just how you set it up, being able to actually use the screen, the speed of the ball screen guy coming up to get you, how good he sets the screen, if he doesn't set the screen, the angle. There's a lot of different things to it, but yeah.
At what point in your career do you feel like you had a pretty good handle on it? How long did it take you to kind of get to the point that you are now?
I would say probably this year, to be honest. I feel like I was always good at it, but learning more and new techniques of just learning different things from PJ. And I think the biggest thing was just like the speed, like change of direction, change of pace. I felt like once I was able to learn that, kind of use my body a little bit more, it's helped.
Did you do much of that?
Yeah. Yeah.
But what is PJ kind of added to the pick and roll part for you?
Just teaching the sense of urgency, the pace, how to change people's feet, the angles, literally what I said.
Brady, you have two prominent programs going tomorrow night. They've had their moments. You guys have obviously had moments with your core. How fun is it to play in games like these on this stage with us on the line next week potentially?
I think that's why you want to play in college basketball, is for these moments and what you kind of dream of as a kid, because obviously you don't want to be at home right now or any of those things. You're playing in a Elite Eight with an opportunity to go home to Indianapolis and play in a Final Four against probably the best team in the country. So I think for us, like, it's a challenge, but at the same time, like, it's fun. You're able to go out there and compete with the top teams in the country. We've shown that we're able to do that, and I think for us, it's just another test that we have to get through to achieve our goal.
I know you're not looking ahead. You're focused on Arizona, but being a kid from Indiana, how special would it be for you to have that opportunity if you guys can beat Arizona, to go back and play in front of your family, your friends, and of course Westfield as well? Yeah,
no, it'd be unbelievable. I think just being like, I'm 25, 30 minutes from downtown, so to be able to be there and do that and experience that, I mean, it'd be 2 home games for us, and for us to have that and that environment would be unbelievable. But I mean, at the end of the day, like, we have to get there. So for us, we understand what's ahead of us and what we got to do to execute tomorrow and get to that point.
Watching you guys play last night, one thing that stood out to me was there were so many big time shots made. What did you learn about? I mean, I know you did your part, but other guys did their parts. What did you learn about your team and yourself from last night? I guess in a game against Texas?
Yeah, I mean, if you want me to be honest, like, nothing. Like, that's the expectation for all of us. Like, for Trey to get that putback, for me to make that shot for it to not even be a putback, like, that's all the expectation. Like, that's just how I am, though. That's how I think. I'm probably wired a little bit different than a lot of people, but that's just how I am. And, like, when CJ makes big-time shots for us, like when he did versus Miami, he hit those 3 threes right before halftime, like, that's what he does. Like, it doesn't shock me when he does those things. Like, when I throw a behind the back pass, it doesn't shock me when I do that because, like, I've done it for so long. They've done it for so long. So, for us, I mean, obviously it's great to have, and it's big time because we need it in a game like that. But I think for me, like, it's just like there we go. Like, exactly what I've been seeing this entire time this happened. So.
Braden, you get a lot of mid-range jumper shooters on this team. I know the game is a lot of rhythm threes and at the rim, but how do you utilize that weapon? CJ, yourself, Omer, even Trey's one-handed push. A lot of guys that can score in inside the paint, outside the paint, and inside the three-point line.
Well, for me, it's just like I've learned probably shooting layups over a 7-footer isn't a smart idea or a high percentage shot. So that's my layup. That's just how I see it. It's just the truth. But like that's just I feel like that's my shot I can go to. I can use my body, bump off defenders, and be able to play that in between game. And obviously they got to respect it. And if they don't, then I keep shooting my shot that I enjoy shooting. Or if they do respect it, then I'm making 2 people guard me, and I can dish it out to whoever. So for us, I think it's a different way to be able to score. And I think like everybody thinks Trey's shot's a little crazy to shoot, but I mean like it's a layup for him. Like he works on that. That's what he shoots. Like. He doesn't shoot threes. He shoots those little push shots and layups at the rim. So it's just one of those things that, it's just what people prefer.
Yeah. No, I mean, he's, 6'8", 255. Coach said he could play for the Bengals right now. So, I mean, he's an incredible athlete, incredible basketball player. So
What's the plan?
block him out. Nothing changes. Yeah. I mean, it's not as much a scheme thing when it comes to blocking out. Either you want the ball or you don't. And I think at this point in time, yeah, you may be bigger and stronger than some of your guys, but it's your last college game. We're going to go down with the fight.
Who in the Big Ten reminds you of Kawaka? Anyone you think of? Toughest rebound cover in the Big Ten.
Yeah. He's a little bit more, I don't know, he's unique. He's unique because, he's more mobile than a few just large guys that you box out, to his credit. So he's not just, we played Ogbole at Rutgers, and he seemed like, just a large human being, but I think he's more mobile than him. So I think being able to, he's a tough cover. That's why he's averaging, 9-10 rebounds a game. He's the 5th best rebounder in the country. So you just got to do your best.
Been a lot of attention, on the seniors, but CJ stepped up in really critical moments at different times throughout the postseason here already. Just what have you seen from him in terms of his growth and his confidence and ability in those critical moments?
Well, I think he's a confident person. He's a confident player. He's kind of always had that since he's been at Purdue. So, we trust him. Our job is to get when we're on offense, we're thinking about getting, to our spots and as many open shots or shots that we practice all the time. That's all we're thinking about. And so whenever he gets the ball and, he's open from 3, that's what we want him taking every single time. So, I'm just happy for him. I'm happy that he's got an opportunity, and I'm glad he's capitalized.
Trey, you got 2 perennial power programs going tomorrow. Highly anticipated, as every game is this time of year. But how fun is it to participate in games like these as much as it is for everyone else to watch those 10 take the floor tomorrow night?
Yeah, I mean, as a competitor, as somebody who plays basketball, you want to play against the best. You don't. It's just you don't get up as much naturally for the games where you don't feel like the other team's as good as you, or you just don't have that competitive fear. And I think that's something our coach talks about a lot. So I think it's just fun. This is what you work for.
Then I can imagine that sort of leads into compartmentalizing the 40 minutes that you have to have in that moment, as opposed to thinking of what could be and potentially going to Indianapolis. How how is that just translating to play the work for you guys, and how easy is that to focus on the 40 minutes that you get?
Yeah. Well, again, I think it's much easier when you know that, I feel like with this team, we could win by 20 or lose by 20 this next game. So that's just realistic. That's what it is. So, when you know that about your team and everybody knows that, like, you have to be locked in for a full 40 minutes. Every single possession matters.
When you look at the film breakdown Arizona, does it remind you of anyone that you guys have already played this year? Is there a comparison at all?
I mean, I would say Michigan just based on how big their front court is, and how many guys that they have, even non-front court players that have size and athleticism. At the same time, they don't exactly play the same way, so I don't know if there's one team that particularly is just like them.
What do you think about playing a team that doesn't play out like Michigan? They're not going to shoot a lot of threes. They're going to come right at you, right there at the rim. How do you feel about that?
I mean, I love it. That's how, as somebody who with my play style, I feel like that benefits me more than anybody. As long as I don't pick up fouls, I want it to be a physical game. That's always just how I've kind of played. 235.
235.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right after the tip-in last night, you went back on defense, even though there was no defense left to be played. It seemed like you just stood there and kind of watched the ball fly. It's top of the backboard, and you just kind of watched it. What was going through your head there? What was that moment like for you?
Yeah, I mean, you're just in a game like that, and at this point in the season, you're so locked in. Next play. What can you do to help the team win? And so, I guess I'm just watching that last heave that they had and just hoping that it doesn't go in. But no, it was crazy because, like I said, you're so focused and in the present moment that it really didn't hit me until I saw all my teammates running at me. So
It wasn't like some profound moment of serenity or anything like that? Or?
No, on the tip-in, no. It felt like.
I mean, standing at the end of the court just watching the ball.
Huh? Oh, no. I mean, I was just hoping that didn't go in. I guess it did kind of it did feel like it took forever for the ball to miss, or something like that, where it didn't happen.
Yeah, well, it's a great mix between the guys that we have and Coach Painter at the helm of it all. It's these guys that we got great families that support the team, that support their sons, and push us to do the right thing. I think sometimes the family wants you to go chase some money, but I think our parents are great parents, and they push us to do the right thing. And also, we realize we've got something special, and Coach Painter trusts us and puts confidence in us to go out there and do what we do.
Do you think there's some stat, I think if you go in the portal and transfer, you might make 30% more or whatever. I don't know if any of you guys get to the spring and you're like, maybe I should, or is it like you said, you want to be part of this family?
Yeah, I think you see some of the money some of the guys go get, and you think, man, I'm a lot better than that guy. What could I be making? But in the end, we get treated pretty well, and we got a team and a coach and a university that believes in us that, a couple $1 million more sounds nice, but I think happiness is a lot better, doing the right things a lot better, and doing something for something bigger than you is a lot better.
Obviously, two perennial programs going head-to-head tomorrow. You guys have played in so many big moments throughout these last 4 or 5 years. What's it like getting ready for a game like this? How much do you enjoy just being a part of something like this that we all just have to watch from the outside and you guys get to play in?
Yeah, well, in the meantime, it's not that great. We got to come do stuff like this. That's pretty boring. But I'm sure I'll look back on it and really appreciate it all. It's especially the group of guys. I love being around these guys. I'll miss being around them every day, joking around with them, telling stories, laughing together, eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner together. So right now it's kind of hard to appreciate because we're so focused on the game and getting our rest and getting your body right. But I know in years and whatever I'm doing in the future, I'll look back and these will be the best years of my life.
And what's going to be awesome about just taking the floor once again with the stage that it is to potentially go to Indianapolis?
Yeah, that's what we worked for. We talked about in the beginning of the year we want to be national champs. So to do that, you got to make it there, and to make it there, you got to do your job. And that's coming out tomorrow and being ready to play for 40 minutes in front of. It's gonna be a great crowd. I'm sure Arizona will bring a lot of fans, and I know we'll bring a lot of fans.
When looking at the scout of Arizona, is there any sort of comparison to like teams that you play?
Just because how talented and how big they are, probably Michigan. They got great size down low, and then great defending guards around, and just a lot of ways they can go win a ball game.
And I guess this kind of goes back into how used you guys are playing in these situations, compartmentalizing that 40 minutes of playing on the floor, and not letting the mentality of potentially going back home to play for fun. What's it like running it? Just staying with the ball.
Yeah, we'll worry about that when the buzzer sounds. In the meantime, it's me pushing everybody to do their job, pushing myself to do my job, and just playing hard as hell for 40 minutes.
What are some of those challenges that Arizona has to present tomorrow night?
Yeah, the one that strikes right away is the glass. They out-rebound teams by 20, 30 sometimes, so making sure we're battling the glass, we want to win the glass, and then obviously they get out in transition and run a lot and create mismatches with their size, so making sure we're taking care of the ball and getting good shots so they can't get out and run.
Does that become more of a full team effort on the rebounding and not relying on the bigs like guards and wings crashing in as well?
Yeah. It depends where they shoot the ball. If it's from the wing, it's probably going to be long miss if they miss it. So, and then if it's short, when it's short, it's probably going to be a short miss. So everybody flying in, helping rebound. And then if we get in mismatches, bigs flying in, helping rebound, and everybody just doing their part to come help out.
Yeah, we woke up today, it's a new day, new focus. We watched a little bit of film on Arizona and, got the scout and went through practice, light practice, just to save our legs. But, yeah, we're prepared for tomorrow.
Going through the scout on Arizona, I know you kind of like broad picture see like what they can do, right? How kind of dominant they've been this year. Did you see some of the similarities? What do you see from them on the floor?
Yeah, they like to push the ball. They can get out, transition. Even on made baskets, they push the ball, and then they got, everybody on their team can play. It's like they got 7 starters. Like we can't treat anybody like they're, weak or anything like that. So yeah, they got a really good team.
Is there an opponent you faced this year that maybe similars what they provide?
Yeah, a little bit of Michigan State with Jeremy Ferris. He likes to get it out, even on made baskets. Get the offense started. So we got to contain that. And then I'll say Michigan too. I feel like they're just as good as Michigan. So yeah, I feel like those two, Michigan State.
Yeah, it's also obviously 2 very prominent programs going head-to-head tomorrow. They've had their moments, but you guys have had your moments throughout the years as well. What are you expecting this matchup to be like on a stage like this, 1 game away from Indianapolis?
Yeah, this is gonna be a great game. We just gotta make sure that we all do our jobs. Like everybody on the team, we know what jobs we have to do. We all got to do it to the highest level. Everybody, whoever's in, got to maximize their playing time, play as hard as they can, and I feel like we got to be smarter than them and concentrate more. But yeah, it's just about the little things. I feel like we take care of the little things that'll take away some of their buckets, and that can get us some easy buckets.
And how is it like when you are? Is it hard to kind of? This is kind of a weird question from an outsider's perspective, but is it hard when the moment is as big as it is, as close as you guys are to a Final Four, to not look ahead but staying in that moment for 40 minutes?
I don't think it's too hard. I feel like we do a good job of preparing and doing whatever it takes to win this next 40 minutes. Like that's all we're focused on, is just winning these next 40 minutes and being a better team for 40 minutes.
I think just our chemistry. Those are stuff that you can build off the floor as well, as we mentioned. When you know guys and you have fun hanging out with them, you have fun playing with them, and that's the case here. So that's we should not take it for granted. Healthy and happy locker room like we have is not something very, very common. So me specifically, I don't take it for granted.
Okay, for sure. All right, appreciate it, man. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Hey, Amir, kind of noticed looking back, noticed you were a little emotional last night. After the game. Was that mainly due to how the outcome of the game unfolded? Was it performance-based? How would you summarize that?
It was hard for me because it was a really close game, and I knew that if I would have done my job better, we wouldn't be in this situation. So obviously I was really happy that we got the win. But when you win like that in the last second, it always haunts you like, what if that ball wouldn't go in? What if what if? And it always haunts you because those are really small changes that made the game. And I knew that if I would have done my job better, we wouldn't be in this situation. So obviously I was really happy that we got a win. And with that being said, I was frustrated with myself and how I played. But the most important thing, and I truly believe in that, we got the win, we got a chance to play for a Final Four against a really, really good team. And, that's all that matters right now.
And always, you move to the next day, right? So when you're out on the practice floor today, what things did you want to work on specifically today that didn't maybe go your way last night?
The things that I'm working on every day. I mean, one game doesn't mean anything. Obviously, I'm frustrated. I went 0 for 4, 0 for 2 from the free throw line. But I'm the same player that I was a week ago. I'm the same player. So I have confidence in my abilities. I have confidence in my shot, and I didn't do anything special today because I don't think I should be. I should worry. As I said, I have confidence in myself, and I was working on the same shots that I've been working on every single day throughout the season. So yeah.
And obviously, we get to this point tomorrow. You're right on the doorstep from going to the semifinals of this tournament. How do you keep that 40 minutes compartmentalized in order to get to your guys a step closer to your ultimate goal?
Yeah, it's gonna be a tough one. They have a really good team. It's gonna be tough. Obviously, we walked through some of their stuff. We watched a lot of film today. We're gonna watch some more film tonight. We're trying. We're starting to understand what they trying to do in offense and defense. We are starting to understand that, and we'll come to the court well prepared and ready physically and mentally to do everything we can to get a win.
It's just having guys that can make pull-ups and guys that can hit intermediate shots. So Trey Kaufman-Renn is really good at his floaters. CJ's got a good pull-up. Fletch has got a good pull-up. Braden Smith has a good pull-up. So the guys that are taking them are guys that consistently make them, even though analytically, it says that you want your rhythm threes, but the defense is also trying to take that away. And you want to be able to play at the rim, but sometimes you can't get it to the rim. A lot of times people just think you could just organically get whatever you want. You have to be able to execute and get shots. And I'm a big believer in when you start, people want you to pass up a good shot and get to a great shot. Right? And in theory, that makes a lot of sense. But when you play great defenses like Michigan and like Arizona, you better take what you can get. Because if you probe the defense sometimes too long and you said, hey, just work the ball, do whatever, you end up having, how many bad possessions do we see at the end of the shot clock? You guys are probably why in the world are they taking bad shots? Well, throughout that shot clock, there's probably some opportunities to shoot the basketball and be able to shoot a pretty good shot. And with that, I always encourage guys to shoot it. And but it has to be something that makes sense. It might not make sense in a game. It's got to make sense through the course of the season. And especially even when some guys struggle at times with certain shots, if they're consistently making them during practices and you've been around them a long time, water's going to find its level and they're going to get to that percentage, that they're normally at. So we just try to encourage our guys to take what they give us. Like you're going to have more pull-up shots when people playing a drop. You just are, you know. But you don't want to take anything. The only way you should take a tough shot is at the end of a clock if you got guys that can control the ball. And obviously we got guys that can handle the basketball and pass the basketball.
Hey, Coach. Matthew Ho, The Athletic. Just been asking, some of your players just about how they're able to build like that cohesion just off the floor through games and such like that. From a coach's perspective, how do you best kind of facilitate that closeness and cohesion without, like forcing it onto them? Yeah, you just, you have to have a shared passion. If you have talented guys that, they don't love the game of basketball, it's just not going to click that way. You have to have guys that love the game, that sacrifice for the game, and then that respect comes in. When you have everybody in the locker room doing what they're supposed to do and doing their job, but they're also outside of practice watching extra film, getting in extra shots, having a defined role and taking pride in that defined role. When you have that across the board, now you have a special team, and that's how you have that cohesion.
Lindsay Schnell, The Athletic. Matt, Tommy has a long history of going overseas, getting skilled international bigs and turn them into big-time players in America, obviously like dating back to when he was an assistant at Gonzaga. What has stood out to you about how he is able to just keep doing that, even though now everyone's going overseas looking for those guys? Right. Yeah, he's been doing it for a long time, 20 years. And that's a big key is the relationships, the relationships that you have with the decision makers. But if you're constantly doing it, and you're getting face to face with people like he has overseas and putting that time in. A lot of times guys they'll try to recruit big time players overseas and they're not getting face to face. They're not going and talking to their parents. They're not having relationships with international agents, things of that nature. And when he's been able to do that for a long, long time, and you see the dividends, and now a lot more people are doing it. And sometimes now it gets, with some of these guys, whoever has the most money, because it's just from a professional standpoint. I think he's on the other side of that because he's the one that does have the relationships, but he also has, look what each one of those guys have done, that history. When you have history, it's like when you deal with big guys, like we've thrown the ball inside more than any school the past 10 years of college basketball in the post, and then you'll find big guys out there and they'll say, well, I'm thinking about these 2 or 3 schools. And you'll be like, well, they never throw the ball inside. Like, you know what I mean? And then like you show them the data and they'll still go to those schools. And it's like, then they're unhappy because they don't get the basketball. And so like he can go and do it from an international standpoint and not talk about a couple guys. He can talk about 30 guys. He can talk about 15, elite European players in the Euro League. He can talk about 15 really good NBA players. So when you have that behind you and you have facts behind you in recruiting, it really helps. And sometimes you'll get, you'll miss out with someone who does have a relationship, or, maybe you're at the end and now somebody has more money or things like that. That's going to happen. But like his track record's pretty impressive.
Josh Schubert with Associated Press. Matt, obviously the Big Ten is playing at a pretty high level during this tournament. How did going through that conference season prepare you? And was there a point where you realized that, man, this is even tougher than it typically is for us? Yeah, the talent in our league's very good. I think you're seeing that here in the tournament, like very good. And I think it's been about as good as it's been for a long, long time. And I think the influx of international guys, our league, is like a corporation now, with 18 teams, and so now we added 4 really good teams and just brought a lot of talent, into our league. But yeah, it was for us, the struggles that we had, 4 of our 5 home losses, we were really good offensively. So it wasn't real hard to figure out like what we needed to shore up. And, you kept talking about it, and kept working on those things. And I think the Big Ten tournament, really helped us understand if we're going to be able to advance in the Big Ten tournament or advance in the NCAA tournament, we're going to have to be better defensively. And the better you are defensively, it's going to lead to a better defensive rebounding team. You're not in as many rotations, you're not behind plays as much, you're not fouling as much. And now that adds up at the end of the game and really helps us.
Thomas on bracketed over. It feels like for the second straight game, CJ had an underrated mini burst that kind of kept you guys stable and do things. What did you see from him in the game last night, and then also kind of his story and his recovery in getting to actually being able to play?
Right, yeah, he's a steady hand. Like, you know, if he has to shoot the basketball more, he does. If he doesn't, then, you know, he's just a solid, you know, player, a guy that can get to his pull-up. He can make threes. But him and Jakari Harris have, you know, played an entire season and rarely turned the basketball over. They don't turn the basketball over. They guard their man. They compete. They play hard. And for him to battle through what he, you know, he's had to do here, nobody really knows except him. But like, I know last week he couldn't come back into the game, and so now he doesn't practice, and then he comes out and, you know, helps us win that game. So kind of speaks volumes. He's got a lot of character. He's been a big piece for us.
And when you get to this stage, people can kind of start pressing when they see that the end of the road is coming, no matter in however many wins or losses come down the stretch here. Have you seen your team come with the right level of focus and controlled aggression and not trying to try too hard in these types of games?
Right, yeah, just organically take what, you know, the defense gives you. You know, offensively, you know, you have to be efficient. And some night you're going to get more shots than not. Like, we don't have a team where a guy wants, you know, when you have a good offensive players, you know, they're excited, you know, they want it, but you can't press. You have to take what the defense gives you and just read the floor, read the game, you know, make the next play, and just try to keep that focus.
Jordan Mendoza, USA Today. These programs are kind of similar in the sense that a couple years ago, you were trying to get Purdue's first Final Four in a really long time, and Arizona's in that same wave of trying to get to that first Final Four a really long time, and at the same time, both really talented, having all the pieces, but sometimes just falling up short. What is it like, you know, when trying to break that spell, curse, whatever it could be, when it's been a while and the expectations are so high?
Yeah. You know, it's just something as a coach that, you know, you want to do it for your school, you want to do it for your fans. We have great fans. We've had over 105 consecutive sellouts at our place. We sell out our exhibition games. We don't have to battle pro sports where we're located. I think that definitely helps us. But no, it's a lot of people kind of look at it, you know, like a burden. And sure, when you go to the Final Four, you're excited about it. But there's relief there. It gets talked about a lot. You know, you don't have to wait for the morning paper to hear what people say about you anymore. You know, you hear it all day long, and it really makes you callous as a person, to be honest with you. It makes you like just be able to keep your focus. And one of the things for me that I really try to get to these guys is just don't let it steal your joy. You know, you play basketball and it's fun, and like, you know, if you go to the Elite Eight or you go to the Sweet 16 or you make the tournament and you get beat in the first round, like a lot of people look at that like as failure. And, you know, failure is when you don't try your best. You know, failure is when you don't put your best foot forward. And you got to go out there and compete, and sometimes you just run out of time and you lose. But when you can get to that mountain and be able to get to the championship game and you come up a little bit short, that hurts too. That hurts like getting beat in the first round or the second round or the Sweet 16 or what have you. So it's definitely there, but you just got to keep your focus on what you can control.
Coach Chris from Babcock Bay Area News Group, you touched on, you know, the success Arizona's had with their national bigs. You've obviously had success with all kinds of bigs, including Zach from Canada. What's the challenge of developing big men in this day and age, and you know, what challenges do they present with the size they have?
Yeah, it just depends on how you play. Do you play through the low post? Do you use your 5 in a 5-out situation? There's a lot of differences there, and it doesn't mean you can't incorporate both within what you do, because you can. I think that is, we haven't tried to be like a cookie cutter type offense. We've tried to allow things to organically in the summer just kind of happen. In this group here, obviously you return a lot of people. Like a couple years before, we returned Zach Edey, so you have a feel. Like now, how are you going to fill in with them? And I always say that in recruiting. There's such bullshit in recruiting, and people believe it like over and over again. But here's how the table gets set in basketball, whether you're in high school, college, or the pros. You deal with 2 or 3 people who can really score, and then the other guys fill in. And that's just the way it is. But in recruiting, when people ask you, well, how are you going to use me? Like, how are you going to use me at Purdue? And I'm like, well, If you become one of our top 2 or 3 scorers, here's how we're going to use you. And what's the next question, right? The next question is, well, what if I don't? Well, then you're going to have to fill in with those 3 people. That's basketball. That's just the way it is. That's just the way things happen. If you can get a really talented team and you got 5 guys and they all average 12 points, it's pretty rare. It's pretty rare, you know, and so, but I bet you somebody has the ball more than everybody else. I bet you somebody has more usage than everybody else. I bet you have someone with second usage. There's a separator somewhere. So in recruiting, like, you don't have that crystal ball, especially in today's world. You just don't. So like, we've just tried to be honest with them and say, here's the 2 scenarios. Here's where you're one of the top 3 guys, and here's where you're not. Learn to understand that, because when you go to the NBA and you've been that guy in college and now you can't do those things in NBA and you can't play with the superstar and you can't run shit and you can't guard and you can't rebound and you can't do that, you're not going to be in the NBA. That's just the way it is. Well, when you come to college, it's just on a lesser version. It's the same thing. You're dealing with a really, really talented guy that isn't very functional as a player, because what you bring to the table is your value to winning. I don't care what level you're at. Your value to winning. So if you can jump over the moon and do a 360 on a breakaway, why in the hell can't you rebound? Right? So we're not in the talent game, we're in the production game. But you see really, really talented guys, they take because now they're elite at that level. Those guys are rare, and they don't stick around college very long. So when you're trying to put a team together and try to do things, it has to start with your honesty in recruiting. And if you lose them that way in recruiting, that's okay, because you just strengthened your program.
Matt, Colin Harmon from the ABC in Phoenix. When you look at their trio of starting freshmen between Burries and Pete, what specifically jumps out about those 2 guys? And I guess big picture with their group, is the guard play or their bigs kind of more eye-popping to you?
Yeah, it's a great follow-up question, because now you're dealing with talented players that are both really functional. Like Koa Pete can break you down off the dribble. He can get to the rim. He's strong. He can score around the basket, but he also can pass the basketball, which is rare for somebody with that size and that kind of frame. And Braden Burries is just a killer. Like, you know, he's one of those guys you're shocked when he misses. You know, he's got that extra gear. It really, really helps him who he's playing alongside, and Jalen Bradley, like, because he's so good and he's so fast, and he can break you down and get in the paint, get to his pull-up. But no, he's got range to 25 feet. You know, he's a special player. And like, you got to give. When you play a great team like this, we've played Michigan, who's a great team. You got to look at everybody like they're the number 1 player on the team. And that seems to be a problem at times. But both of those guys are special players.
Lindsay Schnell, The Athletic. Matt, I'm curious, you know, it feels like every time Braden comes up to a press conference, he has at least one question about his size and how small he is.
Yeah.
When you are watching him in practice on the sideline of a game, is that standing out to you also still? Just like, wow, this person is tiny and they're very productive.
Right.
Or do you not even notice anymore?
Well, it's, you know, he's got big hands, he's got long arms, he's got kind of a fade back to his pull-up to where he can extend a little bit. You know, when you're that size, there's about 10 guys in the league that's that size. You know, you got to be the toughest guy on the court. You know, you got to be a pest. You got to be able to get into the basketball. You got to be able to dictate things. But he's very intelligent. He makes people better. And I think that's something that offsets everything. And I think that's a hell of an attribute to say, like, do you make other people better? And he obviously does. And I said that about the record, and I've talked about that, about the record, whether that's Ed Cota at North Carolina or Chris Corciani, you know, at NC State, or Bobby Hurley at Duke. I think that's cool when he breaks a record, because it brings those guys, you know, back into us talking about, even though Bobby's in coaching. But you don't get that honor that all those 4 of those guys have had without really good players you're playing with. Like, an assist you have to score the ball, and they're not the ones scoring it. So like, being setup guys and being able to have those guys, and so it ends up being a team award, and that's what he's about. You know, he's about our team. You know, even though he's had, you know, more success than most everybody in college basketball, he's still had tough days, and he's always been able to battle it. But I think he battles it through that chip on his shoulder, because he's always been told, just like those other 10 guys in the NBA, that, hey man, at 6 foot you can't make it. You know, but as long as they believe in it, and that's a big piece of how guys have success, is that they believe in themselves. And he definitely believes in himself.
You heard about the respect that Purdue has for Arizona. Well, that feeling is very mutual when it comes to Arizona and Purdue. They know that this is a team that is well experienced. They've played on these stages. They've gotten far into tournaments. They've experienced outcomes where they were on the wrong side of heartbreaking losses. So they know that the Boilermakers are primed to play in this game, and they are definitely not taking them lightly. Here's what the Wildcats had to say about the Boilers ahead of the Elite Eight matchup.
Well, they just have depth to what they do. I'm sure, the way Payne can coach them now, there's a lot of reps that have already been done, so it can be a lot of conversations, and they have a vast database to draw from of experiences together. And, I'm sure he can say, hey, do you remember when we did this, 2 months ago or 2 years ago? And he has guys that can recall. And that's been impressive. And, what I'll say, and Braden Smith's obviously a great player. And, Chad from the Pacers, the GM, he called me like when Braden was like a sophomore in high school. He and I have a relationship. I've known Chad forever. He used to be at Portland. And he was like, I don't know, this kid's a little small, but my son's playing with him, and he plays at my son's high school, and he's really good. So you talk about an eye for talent. That kid was like a freshman or sophomore, and for him to be the all-time leader in assists now, it's pretty impressive. So kudos to Chad. That was he definitely identified a good one there, and Purdue found him as well. So it's been a match made in heaven.
Coach Alex Dowd, K-Gun. A couple of your players told me that before every practice and game, y'all have a huddle where there's a word or a mantra that you'll say to each other to get ready for that day. What's the word today or mantra today, and where did this tradition come from?
Well, I'm not going to tell you. That's our culture stuff. I think it's important that you have rituals that are meaningful, and I think you may be able to. There's probably a way where you can overdo some of these ritual type things, and it maybe gets a little bit cheesy. But I think what's cool is if you have a group of guys that are willing to put their arms around each other and listen to an old guy like me say a few words, and then we have a little routine we go through, and to do that every day, willingly, I think that's really cool. No one's too cool to do it, and to me that's really important. When you're with people every day, it's really important that people, can bond and be normal people and not think the mundane things are stupid. And so I really value those rituals that we do, and I think, that they're key components to building a strong culture.
Nathan Baird, Indianapolis Star. Purdue is the best offensive efficiency in the country. I think the highest that Ken Palm's ever had. And they run a lot of sets, or they're known for running a lot of sets on top of that. Just what sort of tactical issues does that create on these short turnarounds?
Well, you have to be concept based. I'm sure they're pretty good at hiding their calls. So there's no way you're going to be able to teach your team 25 play calls and have them go out and execute it in a day. So yeah, you have to be you probably have to really hone in on what you've done well, and try to break it down into concepts into how you guard that, and go out. I think this time of year, I'm sure there'll be some adjustments made by both staffs, but both teams are here for a reason, because they're probably really good at doing what they do. So I think you're going to see two teams try to come out and assert their will on each other tomorrow, and I'm sure it's going to be a heck of a battle.
Hey Tommy, Pat Forty from Sports Illustrated. Do you remember your first trip to Lithuania, recruiting trip, and what did it take for you to become as networked as you are there?
Yeah, I think I still have a headache from having dinner with Arvydas Sabonis, So and maybe there's some parts later that night I don't remember. Yeah, listen, Lithuanian people are great people, and what an awesome story. If you guys have never seen there's a documentary out there called The Other Dream Team. You guys, if you love basketball, you'll literally bring tears to your eyes. It's about, when they, basically gained their independence from the USSR, and had that magical run in the '92 Olympics. It's awesome. So just awesome people. I've got great relationships with a lot of them over the years, and yeah, I mean, it just I'm thankful for those. I'm thankful for those experiences. I'm honestly thankful for all my travels, over the years. I think it's really helped kind of shape me as a person and as a coach.
Michelle Gardner, Arizona Republic. Tommy, can you talk about the contribution of Tobe Awaka, what he's meant from a leadership standpoint, from a performance standpoint, and just being able to take the role where he's on the bench and not starting anymore?
I have more people come up to me and tell me Tobe Awaka is their favorite player. And I think that's so cool. I mean, he's just, these guys were great up here, and he would add to that list and maybe be even better. He's just so thoughtful, so mature, and he's about the right things. It's honestly, he's been a real asset to our culture. And honestly, I felt like we've always had a pretty good culture. I think he is a key component for taking it to another level, on and off the court. So love Tobe. I wish I could coach him forever. And hopefully we can find other ones like him in the future, because they make my job awesome, and they make coming to work every day special.
Jordan Mendoza, USA Today. Coach, it's not a secret that Arizona has proven itself to be a national contender, among the most wins in the past since the 21st century. The only thing that's just been missing is a trip to the Final Four. So given that, you have a chance to finally get that tomorrow, what would that mean for this program to finally get back to the national semifinals?
Well, it's not going to change my life. I'm pretty fortunate, regardless of the outcome tomorrow. But I think it's going to be a great moment of collective joy for our entire community. And I think that's really powerful. If you get, millions of people that can smile at the same time and cheer together, that's powerful stuff. I mean, that's the compound effect. And yeah, I mean, that's what I'm, would be most excited for. Winning the game would be great, but the collective joy it would give our community would be, more special than just the win by itself.
Saul Bookman, PHNX Sports. Over the course of the last 5 years, you guys have been close, got to the Sweet 16, but this group particularly, when would you say you would notice their competitiveness and their will to win being a little bit different than teams of the past here at Arizona for you?
I think right away. I think right away when we got on the court together, obviously we saw there was a lot of talent there. It was going to be able to be dynamic in how we kind of approached the game. And I just thought that was just going to put a lot of pressure on our opponents. And then, we knew the kids we'd recruited, we knew the kids that were in the program, but when you got them all together, everything made sense. So, I'm not surprised we're sitting here, not at all. And I think we're exactly where we should be. And now we got to go put in the work and probably have some good fortune, on our side as well to hopefully take the next step.
Hey, Coach, Matthew Ho, The Athletic. Talking a little bit more about the closeness of this team. Is there anything you guys do as a coaching staff to help facilitate that closeness? They mentioned they play games to each other. Do you guys have anything maybe a no phone policy at dinner or when you guys are traveling or anything like that?
I'm sure they do some stuff that I don't even know about. But I think one of the things that we really try to do, throughout the year and especially early in the year, is we talk to each other. We have meetings, we have breakout groups. We talk, we get to know each other. Everyone, gets an opportunity in front of the team to tell their story. And, I think that's important stuff. And we want people that are, when they're feeling a certain way, to be able to communicate it, with their teammates. And we want people to when they see someone struggling, to be comfortable to go pick them up. And so to me, that's just a really important thing we do, is just, creating opportunities for people to talk to each other in a meaningful way.
Jason Shearer, Wildcat Authority. You've been in this position as an assistant coach and with Mark Few and all that. Is there something specific you took from him, or really any coach, about your overall approach to these type of games, and not X's and O's, but just general?
Yeah, be normal. I mean, be normal. Be yourself. I think having a consistent approach is the most important thing. And I think if your team saw you change now or become uptight now, I don't think that would be good messaging. So, I mean, Coach Few, I mean, you guys, I don't know what you guys think of him or what you know about him, but he's a great guy. But he's really private, he's really low key, and he's really smart. And, so I just think that I always appreciated that about him. He never made these moments about him, ever. Never made anything about himself. And, I think I learned a lot, from him and how to carry myself and how to conduct myself. And I think, repetition's been a great teacher for me as well. This is my 5th year being a head coach, and I've only been a head coach at one place. And, if I want my players and my staff committed to development, I better be committed to developing myself too. And so I spend a lot of time, trying to get better myself. And, so I think the combination of those two things has been effective.
Hey, Tommy, Rocco Miller, Field of 68, Bracketeer.org. Just wanted to talk to you about Purdue a little bit. They were the 7th seed in the Big Ten tournament. They go and win that thing, beating Michigan and others, and have played well here in March Madness. Just in these last couple weeks of Purdue, anything that, without giving away the game plan, of course, that you can share that maybe jumps out at you, what they're doing so well lately?
Yeah, well, we're going to come out and, no, I'm joking. We're going to full court press and trap everywhere. No, they're just obviously playing really well. But, they've been, I didn't follow their season super close. I know they've been obviously a great program and a good team all year. And when they pop up on TV and you're sitting on the couch for a few minutes, you watch, throughout the season, but nothing more than that. Just kind of looking at their season, a little bit, looks like they hit a few rough patches, and I don't know if there was injuries or just a little bit of fatigue of the season, or scheduling can hit you too. We found that in the Big 12. Sometimes these schedules get backloaded a little bit, and it's a gauntlet. So I mean that can create some tough stretches in the season, but I mean, to me, they look like the team right now everyone thought they were going to be at the start of the year. So I've been, really impressed with what they've done, and to go win the Big 12 tournament and come play the way they have in the NCAA tournament, it's been really impressive.
Just want to follow up on the story you told about Braden. Was that come up organically in a conversation with Chad? Was he calling you specifically about him, and did that go anywhere? Did you follow up on Braden in any way?
Well, no, I never followed up. But let's not act like I was going to beat Purdue recruiting him either. So it's probably a moot point. Yeah, I mean, it was just, Chad's had a lot of players that I've coached, whether, it's been Andrew Nimhard or, Ben Matherin, so we've had a lot of communication over the years. And, he was in Portland for a number of years. And, I think he just called me, and, we were talking about players, and he mentioned this kid at his son's high school, and was a heck of a young player, just was a little small. And so I've never forgotten that, and I never followed up on it. And I was, I don't know if I was transitioning between Gonzaga and Arizona at the time, but I'll say this: the kid made a heck of a choice, and the guys at Purdue were really smart for choosing him, because he's been awesome to watch.
We'll take 2 more for Tommy in the back.
Hey, Tommy, Lindsay Schnell from The Athletic. You said earlier, that when you recruit, you're going to be fact-based. A lot of coaches have talked about that it's harder and harder to be fact-based with players these days. They have to kind of soften their message. Have you experienced that? Especially because a lot of times the assistant is the nice one, and the head coach is the bad guy. So have you experienced that? And then is it different at all with international kids?
I think international kids want, it's a little bigger jump for them. So I think just the comfort of knowing, they're going to play for a coach who's experienced in that area and helping them transition is important. But I haven't changed my approach in recruiting at all, or evaluating, not one bit. We have honest conversations, and if I can't, it doesn't mean I don't go at people or anything. We have, hey, here's where I think you're at. Here's how I think you fit in. Here's what you can get better at. Maybe here's how we can help you. I mean, those are the things of the conversation. You know, I don't go into these conversations saying, man, you're going to be an NBA All-Star, and you know we're going to just let you do whatever you want. I mean, that's not our recruiting. We don't want guys like that. We want guys that want to come be a part of something bigger than themselves, but also individually have big dreams and understand that it's not all about them. So to me, having that honest approach is a great barometer, you know, for me to get the kind of character we're hoping to get in our program. Because the guys that don't want to be a part of that, they self-select out. You know, they don't text me back or call me back, you know, which is great. And they can go have success, you know, doing it their way at their own places. And I wish them nothing but the best. So I think it's really important just to, you know, I guess for lack of a better word, don't sell your soul in this recruiting thing. And one thing I always think about is just the continuum of talent versus dysfunction. And I don't want to build a team of where I'm just trying to accumulate talent to overcome the dysfunction that comes with the talent. There's always going to be dysfunction. We're human beings. But one of the things we really try to do is limit as much dysfunction as possible and get the most talented, least dysfunctional people we can get in our program. And we're not perfect by any stretch. So don't this is not a holier than thou speech, but I mean that's kind of how we've always approached it, and it seems to be working.
Chris Brown, AZ Bandcat Sports. You just talked about kind of when the team is being successful, right? Like the Tucson community, that happiness, that joy that it brings them. Just what did you make of the crowd last night, kind of being that sixth man, and just what are you excited for, the energy that they can bring tomorrow?
They were great. They were great. But I know this, they're going to have their hands full tomorrow, because the bars in San Jose are going to be full of Purdue fans. And you know, like I told you earlier, so our fans need to get up early and, you know, and get to work. And let's have some fun in here tomorrow. It should be a great day. But you know, obviously Tucson's got a special place in my heart. And, you know, these last couple of weeks, to be honest with you, I haven't been getting out much. And it's been nice. It's been nice just to be at home and kind of hanging out and not realizing, you know, there is all that excitement going on, so I can just kind of focus on the task at hand, and that's been my mindset, and that'll probably continue to be my mindset. I don't know, you know, if things somehow, some way go well, you know, you might not see me out much next week. You know, I might just be hanging out in my little hideout in those foothills up there.
And when hearing from both of those teams, you know that the feeling is mutual. In order to win a national championship, you have to play the best teams. And now we have the top seed and the second seed in the West region going head-to-head. The winner will be cutting down one of the nets behind me on this floor and saying that they're going to Indianapolis for the Final Four. Be sure to stick with us on Channel 13 over the air and right here online at WTHR+. That's going to do it for me for now. From San Jose at the SAP Center for 13 Sports, I'm Eli Gehn. Have a great day.